The Goban Saor was in the same line of trade as myself. He was a stonemason. It was he who built the round towers in Ireland, and many is the story was going about him in my father's time. He was married, of course, but according to all the old people, it was only daughters that he had. And so, when it came to the seventh child, and so as not to disappoint the old man, what did the midwife do but exchange the Gabon's little girl for one of the numerous lads that were born the same night in that locality? But when this young boy grew up, he wasn't all that smart, and the Gabon became suspicious. He knew he'd been fooled, so he struck up on a plan to trace his own daughter and give her over in marriage to this supposed son, in the hopes that she'd brighten him. And this is how he went about it. Now it happened this one day that the Gabon killed a sheep, and when he did, he cut off the pelt, and he gave it to his son, and dispatched him with a tight warning not to return home until he had the pelt and the price of it. Well, the son said he would do this, and on the next day he set out. And when all the young girls asked him what he wanted for the pelt, he told them the pelt and the price of it. But they only laughed at him, for it seemed to them the conditions of sale were somewhat comical. On the second day it was the same story. On the third day he met a young girl coming out of a grocery. She asked him what he wanted for the pelt, and he told her the pelt and the price of it. She said, "Follow me." He followed her into the grocery, and when they were inside, she took a large shears, cut off all the wool, weighed it, and gave him whatever price was going for it. Then she handed him back the pelt and told him to be belting off home now to his father. The Goban Saor was upstairs in his office this day when the son came home. "Did you do that message?" says the Goban. "I did," says the son. "And did you get the pelt and the price of it?" says the Goban. "I did," says the son. Well, the Goban wanted to know who bought the pelt, but the only thing the son could tell him was that it was a girl with black, wavy hair and skin as white as any snow. Well, the next Saturday night, the Goban threw a big party. The tables were piled up high with every abundance of food and drink. There were bowls of ale and porter for the lads, and wine and sweet cakes for the ladies. And when everyone had had enough, the tables were pushed back, the fiddlers struck up a tune, and the dance was on. When the hilarity was at its height, the Goban made his way through the crowd, searching for a girl with black wavy hair and skin as white as any snow. And if he did, it wasn't one he found, but three. He took these three girls downstairs, and pushing back the chiffonier, he showed them all a fine firkin full of gold. And turning to the first girl, he said to her, "What would you do if that money was yours?" Says she, "I'd spend forever looking at it, for I am bamboozled by it." Then turning to the second girl, he said to her, "What would you do if that money was yours?" Said she, "I'd spend it away, for it would last me a lifetime." Then turning to the third girl, the Goban said, "What would you do if that money was yours?" Said she, "I'd spend it in order to double it." Well, with that, he sent the other two girls upstairs to the kitchen to fetch his son. And when the son came downstairs, the Goban said to him, "Son, will you be marrying this young girl now?" And the son said, "Who's to stop me, if she's willing?" "Speak up, O my daughter," said the Goban. "Speak up, O my daughter," for he knew then who he had. "I'll marry him," said she, "and before very long I'll have him as smart as yourself." Well, she married him, and was the making of him. Now after the Goban had completed the round towers in Ireland, he turned his hand to building palaces. And since every palace he built was better than the one before, his fame was widely growing. And so it was that the King of England sent for the Goban to build him a palace, since the one he already had wasn't good enough for him. And so one morning the Goban and his son set out for England. When they were gone a short while down the road, the Goban turned to his son and he said, "Son, will you shorten the road for me?" And the son didn't know how, so they turned around and went home. The next day they set out once again for England, and when they were gone a short while down the road, the Goban turned to his son and said, "Son, will you shorten the road for me?" And the son didn't know how, so they wheeled around and came home again. That night, the son's wife, that fierce, capable little woman, said to her husband, "Blessed hour, what is it that's making you turn around and come home every day? Surely you'll never reach England at this gate of going." "Such a thing," says the son. "Every day, when we're gone a short while down the road, My father turns to me and he says, "Son, would you shorten the road for me? And surely I don't know how to do that." "Oh, where were you got?" says she. "What manner of man are you? Your father only wants you to tell him a story, and to humour him into it with the skein of a song." "And you listen here," said she, "you listen to me. You're going off working to a strange place, and it will do you very well to have a woman friend in that house. Now on the first day, when you go in for your supper, there'll be a young girl, and she'll hand you a bucket of water and a towel. When she does, grab the towel and snap her about of it, and be laughing." Well, the son said he would do this, although it seemed like very strange advice to be getting from his own wife. The next day, the Goban and his son set out once again for England, and when they were gone a short while down the road, the Goban turned to his son and said, "Son, will you shorten the road for me?" And the son settled unto do iddledy naddy yump, naddy iddledy yaddy I, do iddledy naddy yump, naddy yaddy I, do. With that, they straightened out in earnest and didn't let up until they reached England. When they got there, the king and queen were down to the gate to greet them. "How do I know you're the right man?" says the king. "Test me," says the Goban. The king pointed up to a flat stone on the face of the old palace. "Carve me out a cat with a tail on it on that stone," says the king. The Goban picked up his magic hammer and he flung it up at the stone, and of its own accord, the hammer carved out the image of a cat. Only it wasn't one tail the cat had, but two. The two-tailed cat was the Goban's trademark, a thing that was very widely known. "Fine out," says the king, "you're elected, and I have the stones drawn and the mortar is mixed." Well, with that, the Goban and his son fell into building the palace, and it wasn't very long before it was soaring for high. It had a hall door 20 feet off the ground, and a ladder the king could pull in after him in case there was any scrimmage, for there's no telling how contrary things were in England at that time. And every day the king was coming up and asking the Goban was it long from it, and the Goban was wondering what all the fuss was about. This is how he found out. Now it was a daughter of the O'Neill clan who was keeping house for the King of England at that time, since his own wife was quite above pot scrubbing. And on the first day, when all the tradesmen came in for their supper, she handed each one of them a bucket of water and a towel. When she came to the Goban's son, he grabbed the towel and snapped her about of it, and was laughing. And the plan worked, for every day after that the two of them could be seen together laughing in a corner. "Bad tidings," says this O'Neill this day. "Bad tidings. That king is stinking with pride, and he is now saying that if you'll go off and build a palace for the Prince of Wales or Belgium, it'll be better than his, and then he won't have the finest palace in the world. So he's planning, if ever you're done this job, to cut the heads down of you." Oh, it wasn't very far back. The roguery was breaking out. Well, the son told this to his father, and the Goban slept in it. And the next morning he said to his son, "If my plan don't work, I can see the two of us will be pushing up daisies before the hay is tied." "Will you wish," says the son. "Here comes the king now." "Is that the finest palace in the 3 kingdoms?" says the king. "It is," says the Goban. "And is it long from it?" says the king. "Oh," says the Goban, "I have only to put the coping on the turret, and the palace will be complete. But for that I'm in need of an implement, and it's called the Corn Egg Creel." "English that for me," says the king. "English that for me." "Oh," says the Goban, "it's the turn against crookedness, and bad manners for a story. Haven't I left at home in Ireland? I'll leg back for it in the morning, and I'll take my son along to shorten the road for me." "You'll do no such thing," says the king. "You'll hold your ground until my palace is completed, and I'll send my own son after this turn against crookedness." Well, that was that, for as anyone knows, there's no profit to be made in arguing with the king. Now the Goban's son's wife, that fierce, capable little woman, was home baking a cake this day, when who comes up to the gate but the son of the King of England. "I'm from over," says he. "They forgot the turn against crookedness, and they sent me after it." She tumbled to it without blinking an eye. "It's up there in that bin," said she, "and if you're not so high and mighty in yourself, you'll stand up on the chair and reach down into the bin after it." Well, this he did, and when he was bent over into the bin, She kicked the chair out from under him, closed the lid, and locked it. "Aha," said she, "you'll remain here a captive until my husband and his father come home to me. Now make out a note to that effect, and pass it out through the mouse hole." Well, this he did, and she gave it to the Gabon's pet pigeon, and of course, he knew where to go with it, and the plan worked. And she hadn't long to wait, and she knew who was to her coming up the mail road when she heard, "Do iddledy naddy naddy iddledy addy I, do iddledy naddy naddy addy I, do."